It's Cricbuzz Chatter. Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan. Day 4 here at the Kia Oval. It's been raining for the last 4 hours. Plays ended prematurely, but Australia, what a start in the pursuit of 384. It's meant to be the Stuart Broad celebration day today here. He went down the steps of the Bedser stand, hit a sixer his final ball in Test cricket, but not to be. 135 with that loss, the Aussies. They're 249 away from what would be one hell of a victory with Warner and Khawaja both well beyond their 50s. They're in a really good spot.
Yeah, they play great. I mean, first and foremost, I didn't think it rained down south. The amount of stick that I got in Manchester for the rain, well, it's absolutely hosing it down. Australia arrived with a great mentality today. I mean, the morning was about Stuart Broad walking out with his good pal Jimmy Anderson with a bat in hand. I don't know. Do you know who's finished their career with a six off the last ball that they faced? I don't know any other. Do you?
I actually don't. Was it you?
No, absolutely not. No, I reckon it might be Stuart Broad, the only person in Test history that's hit a six. The last ball that he's faced, but. It was all about England's bowling, no swing. There was nothing off the pitch. Could the spinners produce a bit of magic? There was a bit there for them, but Moeen Ali's clearly struggling. He's kind of bowling just with his shoulders, so it's not easy for Moeen. Then Joe Root had a pop, but the two left-handers, David Warner, I saw that spring again. That little buzz, that little pocket rocket energy that we've seen of Warner over the last 10 years. It was back, but the rain came at the right time for England. It really did come at a time where Australia was scoring freely, scoring at sixes, just kind of manoeuvring the ball to all parts. The ball was skidding on, and Australia still have 249 to get. So all results are possible. I just hope the rain doesn't kind of ruin the last day. It'll be a fantastic last day of the best series I've seen for a long, long time. We don't need the rain to spoil it.
No, and the forecasters look broadly okay. Certainly better than when we woke up this morning for Monday, so fingers crossed on that front. On the England bowling attack, the other factor in all of this is Mark Wood. Bowled one pretty nippy spell, hit Khawaja in the helmet. They got to change the ball as a consequence. Looked a little bit newer, I reckon, the one they pulled out of the box, which we didn't get to see them use it too often, though, because they were off the field with rain shortly thereafter. But, yeah, what's going on with Mark Wood? Didn't bowl before lunch, came back on the field late after lunch, then bowled quickly, then hits Khawaja, nearly hits him a second time, then straight back up the stairs of the Bedser stand.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, the first thing you think, has he got a niggle? But how do you bowl at 88 miles an hour with a niggle? Maybe he had a bit of sickness. Maybe he had a little bit of illness. I'm not too sure. Maybe it was tactical. England opted to bowl Broad, then Wokes, then Broad, then Anderson from the pavilion end. There's a foothole outside the left-handers off stump, and they were trying to bowl cutters and leg cutters and get David Warner and Khawaja had like 4 catches on that offside quite close in. So it was like a subcontinent style tactic that England went for. Whether that'll be effective on day 5, we'll have to wait and see. I think England need a bit of swing. They somehow have got to try and get the ball swinging. Today it didn't. Will the moisture probably put lane to that as well? We'll have to wait and see. But I always think that when you get down to the wire and when you start looking at 249, if Australia have got a good psychologist, because if you look at the run chase of 384, I think it's the 8th in the history of the game. So that's a tall order. They need a psychologist to go into that dressing room tonight and say you're not 135. That didn't happen. All you're chasing is 249.
Yeah, Moeen Ali's clearly impeded by that groin injury. Root looks a threat, to be fair, but if you're not used to bowling 12, 15 over spells, it's hard to kind of have that consistency of purpose across a whole session, which we saw a little bit. He started nicely, but then fell away as the session wore on and they were able to score more freely off the former captain. Interesting to see that sort of half a Yorkshire wall after lunch. I was going to bring that up with you as well, with the field set for 3 catching covers. There aren't many bowlers in the game who've bowled better to that field than James Anderson over the years in the subcontinent and in Asia, full stop. But you don't want Anderson doing that. You want Anderson being able to hoop the ball around. And as for Broad, I don't think the occasion got to him necessarily, but maybe he was just trying too hard, straining to hit the stumps, trying to get it angling in and moving away. And when the ball wasn't responsive, a lot of that became help yourself through mid-wicket.
Yeah, I think it's just down to the movement. I just don't think England got any movement with the ball. I don't think there was any swing. There wasn't any seam. And when you're kind of hoping to kind of land one in a foothole for a seamer and the left-hander's going to drive and it's going to go to that wall that you've just mentioned, that's almost like I'm looking at plans A, B, C, D. You're down to about F and G. Yeah. That is a plan that you kind of go to right down the back end of a long day in the field in India or in Sri Lanka. Well, England turned to it quite early because nothing was happening. So what Ben Stokes has been able to do in the last year and a half is create little kind of scenarios, theatres out in the middle. He'll create a few more tomorrow, but I just look at the bodies of the England players. You've got Stuart Broad, who's playing his 6th Test match of the summer, the emotions of his last game. Jimmy Anderson's 41 today. Happy birthday, Jimmy. But 41 years of age. He's played 4 Test matches. Mark Wood, charging in for the third consecutive test match. He's not rarely played 3 test matches on the trot. Chris Wokes has had injuries and now he's back for the 3rd game. So I'm looking at those 4 quicks and think, can they find just one more day of them to level the series? I genuinely believe England deserve to level this series. I think they played really good cricket at times, but Australia this week, they reminded me of, I'll keep going back to they've been on the ropes and out the ropes. In Manchester they were knocked out in a way, but they kind of sprung back up like Tyson Fury once did. This week they've been on the ropes for the first 3 days, and then suddenly on day 4, very similar to Edgbaston in the second innings, you're suddenly going, they're going to win this. How are they winning this, Australia? And before you know it, Pat Cummins had got them over the line. They've got themselves in a similar situation here that they could sneak an incredible test match victory. And if they win here and they win the series 3-1, you can only say that they will have been the better team across the 5 matches.
All right, Vaughanie, let's go into the hotspot. As the rain tumbles down, we'll go into the hotspot. We'll keep this as brief as we can. Usman Khawaja brought up his 5,000th test run today. I think his career was over 2,000 runs ago, averaging 62 as an opener. He's on 69 not out going into the final day here. He's faced 1,248 balls in the series. I mean, it's hard to put into context what an extraordinary turnaround this has been. He's got a career average that's gone from 39 to 48 in that space of time as well. He's not only legacy building out here at the moment, he's playing his best ever cricket.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, and what I really enjoyed about Warner and Khawaja in the second innings, in the first innings when England were able to bowl to the Australians, you know, there was that period on day 2 morning when they did nothing. They just sat in there. It was like, come on Australia, play the Aussie way. And they hung in there. They might say that by batting attritionally in the first innings, you know, wore the England bowlers down. And look what happened today. If they win the test, they'll say, well, it's a 5-day game, you're allowed to wear them down in the first innings, but it wasn't the right way to bat. And what they did today, I saw Khawaja kind of just shimmy down to the seam, particularly Anderson, that you know is going to pitch it around that good length. He went out to say, all right, Jimmy, if you're going to pitch it, I'll be there to meet you. So really clever batting. He's been the rock throughout the whole of the series for Australia. Every time he bats, he hangs back, and all of a sudden you pitch up, he goes boom. And I thought his tempo today with Davey Warner's was perfect because they ran the singles as well. They ran between the wickets hard. Sometimes with Usman, I sometimes look, come on, run between the wickets a bit harder. Well, today he got absolutely his tempo spot on, and his mindset with Davey Warner was about, yeah, we're here to score runs. And I think they sent that message to England quite early, you know, to say, look, we're chasing this. You know, we're here to try and win this test match, not survive like we were in the first innings. And when you're bowling against that mentality, you ask any bowlers, it's a lot harder to bowl to someone that's looking to hit you rather than someone that's just looking to defend.
All right, Vaughanie, for the final time in our series, let's press fast forward. Vaughanie, fast forward. Some teams are good at chasing, other teams are not. The muscle memory, the importance of Australia having achieved the chase at Edgbaston, it feels like a long time ago, but it's the start of this series. We saw England chase about this tally on the 4th day. When I say this tally, 250 odd in what became the final day there. But from an Australian perspective, how important is it that they've already actually done this in the series?
I think confidence is everything when you're winning games of cricket. It's just on the back of 2 performances at Headingley and Manchester where they haven't been quite right, and up until today they haven't been quite right. But they found something. And I think it's a huge strength that Australia may have, that they might just find it at the right time. They found it at Edgbaston, they managed to find it at Lords, and if they find it here and win 3-1, it'll be a remarkable series victory because, let's be honest, for the most part of this series, they've been taking some brutal blows from this England side. England just come out swinging and they've been kind of catching Australia with quite a few of those punches, and Australia have suddenly just hung in there. They've kind of taken the towel out, damped themselves down, had a bit of water, and away they've gone. It's a brilliant end to an amazing series, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's an absolute nipper going down the wire. Patty Cummins will be batting once again. There'll be a partnership or two, there'll be a drop catch or two, there'll be a run out chance or two. I think we're going to have the ending to a series that's been very, very special.
The ending we deserve. It should be a grandstand finish. Let's hope it ends up in the final session in the entire cricketing world who's watching the Oval tomorrow afternoon. Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan, Cricbuzz Chatter. Until then.